Let's talk about this. So it seems that the 2024 election was really a referendum on the direction of the country and identity politics in general. Identity wasn't enough. I think the Democrats really overplayed their hand on thinking that abortion would be the number one issue or an issue that would drive enough, especially men, to win. It can really be said that this election came down to a question of culture. And I know a lot of people will say black and white, people voted for a racist. And, there may be validity to that. But at the end of the day, I think people voted culturally with the direction of America. When you try to make reproductive rights, as they claimed it, or as they called it, but abortion the number one main thing, you're really discounting all the people that are faith based in this country. And that leads into another thing. With all the black churches and pastors that allowed candidates to come on their stage and their pulpits and preach that, I think you really need to take a look in the mirror. To platform anyone that's going against the word of God is it's questionable to say the least. Aside from the reproductive aspect of the election, I think another blunder on the Democratic side was trying to paint men that didn't want to vote for her or had scrutiny of her as misogynist kind of backfired. Just because you have a disagreement or you don't believe in someone does not mean that you hate them. And I think that word gets thrown around a little bit too loosely. Just because you don't support something doesn't mean you hate it. And the definition of that word is the hatred of women, which I don't think is accurate. And I think a lot of men took offense to. Black men still overwhelmingly came out in support of Harris, even after Obama spent the last few weeks leading up to the election being critical of black men, trying to chastise and shame them into voting for her. Instead of having a conversation about their issues, they were just told that if they didn't vote for Kamala, that they hated women. It kind of was akin to what Joe Biden did and said that if you don't vote for him, you're not black. And that's how a lot of black men took it. And speaking of men in general, the Democrats have done a very poor job of just speaking to men and men's issues. The only thing that they really talk to men about is toxic masculinity, misogyny. It just seems that they have a very bad view of men and what it means to be a man. And I think the country just rejected that. There's a solid majority in this country that weren't the loudest voices in the room, weren't the ones screaming, from the mountaintops. They just showed up and voted. Trump was able to tap into that, by just acknowledging the issues of men, acknowledging young men, and showing up to the platforms where he can reach them, which I think Kamala Harris just assumed that strong arming them with a label of misogyny and patriarchy would be enough to guilt men into going and voting for her. I think most men aren't misogynistic and were looking for the reason, looking for the issues. And every time she was asked anything in detail, she could never give a proper answer. And maybe men were able to see through that in a different way than women were and just did not trust that as far as leadership and not being able to answer questions and, give precise and concise details. The identity politics just didn't play well this time. And trying to, be separatist is just something that just backfired. The Democrats thought that they had Hispanics in the bag, and that clearly was not the case. I think that they thought Hispanics would vote in the interest of immigration, but most Hispanics are very conservative by nature people. And I'm not talking politically, Democrat conservative. I'm just saying lifestyle. Very faith based, very hardworking people, very business oriented people. And that overwhelmingly was more important to that community than the identity politics or the right to terminate life. For the Democrats to really bounce back and really make change, they really have to look in the mirror of what they've been doing over the last 16 to 20 years and really making everything about identity politics. It does play well in elite circles, but as you can tell from the results of this election, the majority of the country is not elite. The majority of the country is regular folks that just trying to get by, do what they need to do to take care of their families and live a good life. They just want a path forward. And you have to really connect with the issues that reach out to those people. And men are included in those people. The Democrats try to capitalize off the gender war that's been going on culturally, and they lost. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I actually voted independent. But just being on the outside looking in at both sides, I kind of clearly seen what was going on here. And I think going forward in the future, they're going to have to provide candidates that can speak to regular people, not just college educated white women or black women, not just the people in the liberal strongholds of the main cities, but you have to connect with the average American person. The average American person, the issues aren't necessarily being discussed on mainstream platforms. Their issues are paying their bills, keeping their kids safe, controlling what their kids learn when they're outside of their custody, and them making the final decisions on things like that. Let's see if this is a learning experience for that party and how they bounce back from that, how they look at this and self correct, and to just not really be mad and, throw tantrums, but to actually look in the mirror and see where you messed up and where you can do better. So we'll see where this takes us and we'll see what changes have been made. At the end of the day, we're all stuck in this together. We're all on this same boat ride, and you might as well get along with the other side. You might as well get along with the people that you're stuck on this ship with, because we got to ride it out together. Watch this.